All right, let's talk about one of the biggest headaches in the English language, prepositions. You know, those tiny little words that are everywhere and can be just so frustrating. But stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to have a solid game plan to use them like a pro. Let's dive in. So, if you've ever just stared at a sentence wondering, should this be in, on, or at, trust me, you are so not alone. The rules can feel totally random, and trying to translate them directly from another language, yeah, that almost never works. It's a classic struggle for pretty much everyone learning the language. And here's why it feels so chaotic. I mean, look at this. There are over 100 prepositions in English. It really does look like a random soup of words. But I promise you, there is a method to the madness. And the secret isn't trying to memorize every single one. No way. Okay, so here's our goal today. We are not going to just hand you a giant list and say good luck memorizing this. Instead, we're going to build a mental toolkit. We're going to focus on the patterns and the logic behind the ones you'll use all the time. It's time to turn all that confusion into some real clarity. So, first things first, before we can wrangle these words, we need to know what their job actually is. You know, what do prepositions do in a sentence? Getting this down is the absolute first step. The easiest way to think about it is this. Prepositions are the glue words in a sentence. They create relationships. They take a noun, like owl or table, and connect it to everything else, telling us where something is, when it's happening, or which direction it's headed. And here is that glue in action. See that little word in? It's connecting the owl to its location, the box. If you take it out, you get the owl is the box, which makes zero sense, right? That tiny word in is the crucial link that shows us the relationship between the owl and the box. All right, let's tackle the big three. Seriously, in, on, and at probably cause 90% of the confusion. But the good news is they follow a surprisingly logical pattern, whether you're talking about a time or a place. The secret here is to think about moving from general to specific. It's like a pyramid. At the top, you have in. It's for the biggest, most general things. Long periods of time, like months or years, and large enclosed areas, like a city or a room. Then we get more specific with on. That's for surfaces or specific days. And finally, we have at, for the most precise specific points, like an exact time on the clock or a specific address. General to specific, that's the key. Let's see that logic in action. You're in a car, it's an enclosed space. A painting is on the wall, it's a surface. You meet someone at the entrance, that's a very specific point. It works the same way for time, in the summer, on your birthday, at noon. See that pattern? It just flows from big and general to small and specific. Of course, prepositions do a lot more than just talk about time and place. So let's expand our toolkit a bit and look at some other really important relationships, like direction and manner. Okay, this is a really subtle one, but it's super useful. When you go to the library, you arrive there. It is your final destination. But if a snake moves towards you, it's just heading in your general direction. It might stop and might turn away, hopefully. So to is all about arrival, and towards is about the direction of the journey. And this is where you can see just how versatile these little words are. They answer all kinds of questions. How did you get here? I came by car. Why was the game canceled? Because of rain. What did you use to open it? With a key. Each one of these provides a crucial piece of information about movement, or how something was done, or why it happened. Okay, let's level up. Sometimes a preposition doesn't follow a general rule because it's basically married to another word. This is where we have to stop thinking about individual words and start learning fixed phrases. And that brings us to phrasal verbs. This is when a verb and a preposition team up, and together they create a totally new meaning that you would never guess just by looking at the two words separately. Like give and up, two simple words, but give up means to quit. Exactly. Look after has nothing to do with looking behind you. It means you're taking care of someone. Put up with doesn't mean you're building something. It means you tolerate something annoying. The real trick here is to learn these combinations as a single unit, a single piece of vocabulary, like a brand new word. Now, very similar to phrasal verbs are these things called dependent prepositions, or collocations. This is just when a word, whether it's an adjective, a verb, or a noun, has a specific preposition that always partners with it. Honestly, there's not always a deep reason why, it's just the way the language grew up. Just think about it, right? You're always interested in something, not for it or at it. You listen to music, and you wait for a friend. These pairings are basically set in stone. Using the wrong one is a super common mistake, so learning these as a complete chunk is an amazing strategy for sounding more natural.
Woo! Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. So now let's pull all of this together into a simple, straightforward toolkit that you can start using, well, right now.
Here it is, your 4-step guide to success. 1. Always ask yourself, what kind of relationship is this word showing? 2. Keep that general to specific pyramid for in, on, and at fresh in your mind. 3. And this is a golden rule. If a verb comes after a preposition, it almost always takes the ing form. Like, she's good at swimming. And 4. Treat those phrasal verbs and collocations like single words. Learn them as a chunk. And this really gets to the heart of everything we've talked about. Please, don't get bogged down trying to memorize all 100+ prepositions. That's a recipe for frustration. Instead, focus your energy on the patterns, the logic of in, on, at, and those fixed phrases. If you master those, you'll be able to correctly handle the vast majority of situations you'll ever face. So, we've taken that messy jumble of words and turned it into a clear toolkit. You now have the core strategies you need. The next step is just to start practicing. So what's it going to be? Maybe you'll focus on finally nailing in, on, at, or maybe you'll learn 5 new phrasal verbs this week. The journey starts with that first step. Thanks so much for joining me.